Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser, Monty G. Yes, continuing my horror movies from the 70s series, I'm going to now talk about perhaps one of the famous remakes of all time that happened during the 70s, and that is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yes!
Don't fuck with them hoes.
Now, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a 1978 American sci-fi horror film. It was directed by Philip Kaufman, written by D.J. Richer, and of course based upon the 1955 novel The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney. Now, the film stars Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy, Jeff Goldblum, and Veronica Cartwright. Yes, great stars in this one. Now, of course, in the film, when strange seeds drift from Earth from space, mysterious pods begin to grow and invade San Francisco, replicating the city's residents one body at a time. Stay awake. I wonder if American novelist Jack Finney, after writing his 1955 science fiction novel, The Body Snatchers, I wonder if he realized how it would become the basis for several sci fi horror films. I mean, the novel has been adopted into four films. We have the 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers and the remake of the same name that was released in 1978, which is the one we're going to talk about now. While Body Snatchers was released in 1993, and then a fourth film simply called The Invasion was released in 2007. Yeah, so we had four adaptations of Jack Finney's novel. And of course, there are two films that use Jack Finney's premise, but without the pods, such as 1998's Scream clone The Faculty and in 2019's Assimilate. So all these films, and I'm pretty sure there's probably others that particularly used his particular basis in Jack Finney's novel. Now, as far as the 1978 film, the remake, American director Philip Kaufman decided that this film was going to be a new version of Finney's novel, not a remake of the 1956 film. He said to himself, he says, look, this is just a different vision of what I have with Finney wrote, not a simple remake of the 1956 novel. So I think that's what Kaufman was trying to do. No, the one thing the filmmakers wanted to do was to keep the film noir look of the original, despite it filming in color. I think that's one of the great aspects of the 56 film because it has that little film noir vibe that you get in that particular setting. But here, even though it's in color, you still get that same type of tone and vibe in this version. Now, cinematographer Michael Kappen was able to achieve this by using certain color tingles that would indicate to the audience that some of the characters were now pod people. You can actually see how the colors look different as opposed to when a person who was before was a pod person looks one way, and then when they become a pod person look another way. That's what he tried to do in his movie. Now, when I first saw the film, I was cracking up laughing because the film has a cameo from actor Kevin McCartney, who played Dr. Miles Bennell from the original 1956 film, who basically says the same line that he says at the end of the film. They're coming, they're coming, they're coming for you. They're already here. Don't go to sleep. That was such a great line that he did at the conclusion of the 56 film. And he basically does the same thing in this film here. Now, some of the changes Kaufman does in this film takes place in San Francisco, but the main cast, Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, and Veronica Cartwright, basically the same type of characters from the original film. They're nothing really different. They might have different jobs, might be different roles, but it's basically the same cast as far as the four actors in this film that make up the cast, minus Leonard Nimoy. But they all basically play the same type of characters. Now, the plot remains the same, too. Geneless creatures leave their dying world and land on Earth, taking the form of small pods with pink flowers. Now, of course, it's not long before Matthew and Elizabeth, who work together in I think it's Department of Health, along with Jack and his wife Nancy, discovered that the pods are duplicating people when they sleep, replacing everything of that person except human emotion. Now, one of the great things I liked about the film was the casting of Leonard Nimoy. It was interesting because Kaufman stated that Nimoy took the part of David Kibner as a way of preventing him being typecast due to his popular role of Spock on Star Trek. It's funny because he's not, he's actually does a good job in his role of Dr. Niebuhr, but everyone else knows him as Spock. And I think that's one of the reasons why he took the role because he said, look, I don't want to get typecast playing a Vulcan anymore, so I'm going to do this role. So you got to give Nimoy credit because he actually does a good job in his role. Now, unlike the original film, which ends with the doctors believing Dr. Bennell's story after an accident involving the truck carrying the pods is found, we get one of the most famous endings in films where Nancy talks to Matthew, who still thinks he's human, until he does that alien shriek. Why don't we see that ending again? Now, one of the fascinating things that when I was researching this project, was that Kaufman decided to keep this ending a secret from everyone except from the screenwriter W.B. Richard and producer Robert Solo. Now, Sutherland was not told about the ending until the night of the shoot, and Kaufman isn't sure if Veronica Cartwright ever knew about the twist ending until Sutherland in turn pointed at her and shrieked at her. And we don't know if she actually knew about it or not, but it looks like she had the same type of reaction because if you all know, she was in the 1979 Alien, and then when the chest bursting scene, when John Hurt's chest busting alien pops out, at the time, I think the squibs in the thing exploded the wrong way and the blood got on her. And that's her actual reaction because she knew what was supposed to happen, but she didn't know what's going to happen that way. And so that's Cartwright's actual reaction when all that fake blood was spilling up on her. So they decided to keep that in the same. So if that was her true reaction when Donald Sullivan pointed at her and shrieked, and she didn't know that was going to be the plot. I guess that was her great reaction. So you got to give the filmmakers credit that they decided to change the ending. Because, like I said before, it's now one of the most famous endings in Hollywood. Now, the film was released in the United States on December 22nd, 1978, earning 1.3 million at the box office, and it grossed nearly 25 million, which is equivalent to 104 million in 2021. Now, most of the critics praised the film, some calling it one of the greatest sequels ever made, and I really have to give them credit because, like I said before, it's a decent sequel. Perhaps, like I said, one of the better sequels. A lot of people do prefer the sequel as opposed to the original. I actually like both films. This is the first time where I actually think that both films are both equal to each other because normally what I always say is that I always prefer the Dawn of the Dead remake over the original one. I prefer the Evil Dead remake over the original one. But as far as these two films are concerned, I actually like both films equally. The 56 version and the 78 version, I think they're both great. Now, while most horror fans may prefer this adaptation of Jack Finney's novel over the 56 version, although there are some who prefer the 1993 version, that's called Body Snatchers, mainly because of Meg Tilly, well, most everyone agrees that the 2007 version is the weaker adaptation of Finney's work. That's the one that stars Nicole Kidman, and I didn't find anything wrong with the film. It was just something was missing. I don't know what was wrong with that particular film, but a lot of people did not like that particular version, and I can get it why. It's kind of meth to me. Now, as for me, the film kind of improves on the 56 original film, as it keeps the same tone and atmosphere as the original film was, but it does add some decent practical effects, and again, as one of Hollywood's most shocking endings in films. So, like I said, overall, this is a great science fiction horror film. Like I said, there are some great scenes in the film. I believe one of the best scenes in the film is when we actually see when all the characters are trying to pretend that they're duplicates and the dog comes up, but then you have this man's face on it because unfortunately they combined it together, and then we have the reaction. I think Brooke Adams, she reacts, and they all know that they're human, and they all shriek. I think it's one of the best films, one of the best practical effects in the film. There's a scene in I think it's called the bathhouse that Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright they own. There's that body that's covered up that's still not done. I think that was a great scene right there. And of course, the pod seed scene the pod scene where Donald Sutherland is asleep and all of a sudden you see them starting to duplicate. That's pretty good. We really don't get that in the 56 original. Not saying that that's not bad because it didn't have the practical effects back then as he do now. But like I said, it does improve on it. But I still enjoy both films. If you have not seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1978, I know I probably spoiled some of the film, but if you haven't seen it, but you want to see it again, it's playing right now on Pluto TV, and I'm pretty sure you can probably get it on YouTube. Yeah, I really did enjoy Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and if you haven't seen the Body Snatchers or the Invasion, you can actually check out those films as well too. So there you have it. That's my video for today, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, give it a thumbs up, like, and share because it does help out with that YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way, you'll be notified anytime when I put up new videos, such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. And I see you in my next video. You guys stay safe out there.